Are all churches the same? You might think so if you're a casual observer and you really don't much about Christianity or the church. And that was much my experience when the Lord was drawing me to Himself. I didn't really know that there was any difference too much aside from appearances as far as the differences between churches. But then a question might arise, if there are differences, do the differences actually make a difference? Now, as we get into this video, I would ask that if you get something out of it, that you would like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can see more content like this, and give some feedback down below. Ask questions, give some feedback, and let me know what you think so that way I can make more content that answers questions that you have. If I could, I would give you the example of store chains. Now, if you're in another country, you can make a similar comparison, hopefully, or perhaps if you're somewhere where there are more marketplace type things, you can think of different merchants, different dealers, and such things. But here in the United States, we have stores such as Walmart, we have stores such as Target, and perhaps more locally here in California, we have what is called Foods Co. Now, all of them generally do the same thing. They all provide services, they all provide different products, but going into the stores, especially if it's like a super Walmart, the experience is going to be quite different from if you go to Target. And the experience between Walmart and Target is going to be different from Foods Co. and Foods Co. to Target and Walmart, and so on. And so you may have similar products within each store. Many times, especially if it's the name brand things, you're going to find some similar things. And that's what you're going to find in churches in general. You're going to find some similarities. You're going to find some similarities in beliefs, specifically in regards to the person of Jesus Christ and Him being both the Son of God as well as God who revealed Himself, made Himself visible in the person of Jesus Christ. And so you're going to have the similarities. You're going to have the name brand things that are similar across all the stores. But if you were to go to Walmart, your experience in Walmart is going to be quite a bit different from your experience in Target. Your experience in Walmart is going to be a lot more impersonal. You may not get too much help. You may have to look around and try to find help if you're looking for a certain product. Versus if you go to Target stores, some of them are a bit smaller. They may not have as wide as a selection, but it does feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more homey, a lot more personal when it comes to the shopping experience. And so when it comes to the differences in churches, the experience and the contents are going to be the major differences. Now, if we could drive this example even a little further, we can look at the different food options or clothing options within each store. Now, if you go to Foods Co., you're really gonna find little to no clothing items in Foods Co., although it's a store similar to Target. If you go to Target, you're going to find clothing that's a bit more quality, even with their personal brand clothing, compared to if you were to go to Walmart's personal brand clothing. The quality difference is going to be quite a bit different, in all honesty. But yet again, you're going to find some of those same name brands. You're going to find Hanes, you're going to find Fruit of the Loom, and these different items. Same with food items. And so there are going to be some similarities across the stores, and yet there are going to be some differences. So with Walmart and their brand clothing, the quality may not be as good. But with Target and their name brand clothing, I think one is called Jack and Cat or Cat and Jack, their quality is going to be a bit better than the Walmart brand clothing. And this is more of the off-brand clothing versus the more name brand clothing. Whereas if you go to Foods Co., you're not going to find any type of clothing at all. Now, granted, Foods Co.'s name is going to give it away what the type of store is there for. And it's like that with churches. If you go to certain churches, there's going to be some content you're going to find in one church that you may not find in another type or denomination of church. There's going to be some experiences that you can get in certain churches that you cannot get in other churches. And much of this goes back to what we call the details or what we call the contents. Perhaps if you have a favorite dish, Mine, I love enchiladas. And so people make enchiladas different ways. But let's say if there was a master recipe that would satisfy each and every consumer, even if they liked it a certain way, if there was one specific recipe that met the needs, the dietary needs of each and every consumer, as well as gave them the taste and the textures and the sauciness or whatever it is that they liked, that would be original Christianity. And each and every different denomination, they are a branch of what later became historical or institutional Christianity, which is based off of what the Roman Catholic Church developed later on, 300 to 400 years after the original church was established. Many of the different Christian groups or Christian denominations, they are outgrowths or outcrops of what is called the Protestant Reformation, led by a man named Martin Luther. And Martin Luther, he was originally a Catholic monk who was actually reading the scriptures versus going by the traditions that the Roman Catholic Church had set up and was propagating, promoting, and continuing. It was in this Reformation, or this seeking of reforming what was currently going on within the Roman Catholic Church, the institutional, the observational church. It was Martin Luther who tried to get back to some biblical basics. And ever since Martin Luther's Reformation, different individuals and different groups would see other details within the scriptures, and they would try to bring those out, perhaps in cooperation with what Martin Luther had done. And so because of these different details that were popping up, not that they were meant to be contradictory, but they were meant to all work together, that's where we go back to that example of a master recipe. And so while we can look at different denominations, different types of churches, all churches are not the same. All churches do not go by the master recipe. You actually want to find a church that strives to go by the master recipe in order that you can get all that God has for you. You can go to Walmart, but you're not going to be able to get the quality out of Walmart that you're going to find in Target from the off-brand clothing. You can buy the Walmart brand foods, but it may not be as quality as the Target brand foods. And even those are not going to be as good of a quality as perhaps the name brand foods. And so Jesus Christ himself, the one who actually established the church based on what he did, the one who worked through his hand-picked, hand-chosen disciples who he later named apostles or ambassadors of his kingdom, Jesus Christ in the Gospel of John, he said in chapter 17 that he was praying for those of us who would later believe on him through what his apostles taught, and all of what they taught, that master recipe, in contrast to later teachings and doctrines, partial teachings and doctrines that will later crop up. And we find in the book of Acts, which is where you can see this newly fledgling church in action, we see that when people came to faith in Jesus Christ, that they followed and obeyed all that Jesus's apostles taught them and modeled before them, and what is called the apostles' teaching or the apostles' doctrine. Now, if you want to know more, if the video is not already out, I would encourage you to follow up. But if it is, I'm going to link it right here. And until the next one, may you allow the Lord to lead you and guide you, shape you and mold you, to help you to be all he's created you to be. God bless you. In Jesus' name.